and that's Molly when she was little. I just kind of wrote this to highlight some of the things that I have done with kids in the sport in terms of recruiting and swimming at the next level. I was able to coach at Arizona State for a while, and while I was there, I ran their recruiting database, which is just a fancy word for an Excel spreadsheet. And then we had a big whiteboard with kind of like all of our recruiting goals on it. So I really know this process, both from the development side, the age group development side, and from the college coaching side. It's changed a lot over the last, couple years since I was involved on the college side, but the premises and the things that are important to schools and kind of what the flow of recruiting has really pretty much stayed the same. I've been fortunate to work with kids who've gone on to swim at really every level of the sport, in all divisions and lots of different conferences, and NAIA and college club sports and things like that. So there really is a place for everybody. Yeah, go on to the next one. This is a quote from Steve Jobs that I like to kind of use to frame some of my feelings and my philosophy about the recruiting process. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. And I like to start with that quote because this process, like I said in the beginning, it really can go a lot of different directions for a lot of different kids. And even though they're all peers, their experience going through this will be vastly different. It'll be different based on what their academic needs are. It'll be different based on, where their swimming fit is. It'll be different based on, how far away they want to be from home. And there can be a lot of peer pressure put on the kids to do certain things and to fit into a certain model. And that peer pressure comes not necessarily from kids on our team. It comes from other kids at school. It comes from, commercials on TV, football games on Saturday. They really have already been sort of taught a lot about, or they think they know a lot about what college is like. And the reality is it is this much broader spectrum of education and options that are out there. And so helping them find their own path through and helping them find their own path to their own destination is just really important to me, because as I was going through this process as an athlete, it was really like a top 25 Division I school or nothing. Everything other than that was just non-existent. And the reality is it's like an iceberg. Yes, there are schools at the top in the top 25, but there's a whole massive amount of options in Division III and Division II and Division I mid-major. And I think the thing that would have helped me was someone who was like, yeah, these are awesome places to go to school. This is an awesome swim team to be a part of. And, you get all the same benefits. So there's a college program for everybody. And that is really the message. Is I think that one of our goals at FAST is to prepare the kids for the next level. And whether that is competing for a school, participating in a college club program, participating in a master's team, whatever that is, we want the kids to continue to swim for life. We want them to value swimming and love swimming, and we want that to stay a part of their life. So there's a college program for everybody. Here's a list of athletes that have swum at FAST and have gone on to swim at college. And I add to this list every year. I started here in 2013. 2013. So the list is not accurate really from prior to when I was here. Unfortunately, nobody was keeping track of that, which is a massive, that's not good. But you can see there's a whole variety of different schools and a whole variety of different divisions and different types of schools and different types of academics that fast athletes have gone on to compete with. And when I show this to the kids, I really try to hone in on the fact that there is this range and there is a spot for literally every athlete at FAST to continue to compete with a team beyond high school. And, that's what's important. Now, with that being said, swimming in college is not for everybody. You do give up a certain amount of your social life and you do have to do certain things. You have a responsibility to the team. So, it is not necessarily for everybody, but I think it's a really great addition to an athlete's collegiate experience. And I think it really helps continue the character building and the character education that we have here. And they continue to kind of use sport as the vehicle to learn life lessons. One, exercise is good. We all know that. Exercise is good for you. Keeping them active and mobile at college will help them. You have a peer group from the moment you step on campus, and I think that can't be understated. You have seniors who you're already close with. You have juniors who are kind of, going through or sophomores who just went through a lot of the same things that you went through. And so you have this group of athletes who you're going to be able to interact with right from the bat. And I think you guys know that one of the benefits of our team is the people and the kids on the team and those relationships, those authentic relationships that they form with their teammates. These are people that'll be in their life forever. So, it helps kind of make sure that they're into the same things that you're in. And we know swimmers are good people. So athletes are good people. Mentors to guide you through the early stages of transforming into an adult. I'll never forget when I was coaching at ASU, I had an athlete come to me with like a paycheck they had from like swim lessons or something like that. And they're like, where's all this money? Where's all my money? And I'm like, sorry, son, those are taxes. Like that's taxes. So there's adults who are there to kind of help them with some of those things. If someone gets hurt, someone gets sick, they have great resources in terms of health and safety and things like that. So having those adults there looking out for them is really valuable. Academic assistance. Athlete academic assistance is probably the biggest factor, and I think it's probably the biggest benefit to being a collegiate athlete is you get priority class selection. You have a place where you can go where there's tutors all the time. Some schools have tutoring hours where kids are assigned to go and spend in study hall and things like that, and that helps them keep them on track. It helps them with time management, and it really bolsters up the rest of their educational experience. And then Division I athletes have a better graduation rate than the average Division I student. I'm sure that numbers that they trickle down Division II, Division III, and so on. But Division I athletes have a graduation rate of 88%, and that's pretty good. So just by stepping on campus, being an athlete, you have a better opportunity to succeed there. Here's some of the differences between the divisions. I'm going to spend most of my time on D1, D2, and D3 because that is kind of where the bulk of our athletes will fit. There are other options beyond this. There's collegiate club swimming, there's NAIA, and there are like masters teams and things like that beyond. And those are also great places to continue. But for the bulk of this talk, we'll be talking about Division I, Division II, and Division III. I really feel that every athlete on the team or every swimmer should probably be looking at all three of the divisions. Now, whether or not you end up in Division I or Division II or Division III is really kind of dependent on what your own family matrix is. But I think when you start the process, I would encourage the athletes to look at all three places. Division I tends to be your more rigorous athletic schedule. There are high academic options in Division I as well. The teams tend to be larger. There tends to be more participation, and swimming is much more ingrained in your life in Division I. The kids will generally be training year round like they do at FAST, and just the general level of competition is a little bit more serious. You are really representing the university in some different ways in Division I. Division II tends to be a little bit smaller schools. They tend to have more of like professional focuses, so like fire sciences and nursing and education and things like that. Division II schools tend to be a little bit smaller. Their class sizes tend to be a little bit smaller, and they tend to be a little bit more focused on specific vocations. And then Division III is I think actually the largest number of student athletes is in Division III, and there is no athletic aid, but there is financial aid in Division III. Division III, it's, in my opinion, it's kind of like the best pieces of club swimming combined with the best pieces of high school swimming in terms of like, you know, they're not necessarily as rigorous of an athletic calendar. They tend to work around the kids' academic schedules a little bit more. And the team sizes tend to be larger and things like that. So yeah, those are all three divisions, and I would encourage every athlete to look at all three and see which one is the best for them. There we go. Where to start? So these are kind of like the first steps of the process. In some sports, they have these things where they're like recruiting services, where you can sign up and then like somebody will help connect you with college coaches. I don't really know how it works because it doesn't really matter in swimming. In swimming, we have collegeswimming.com, and you can go there and sign up for a pro account, and you really don't need anything else. So no recruiting services beyond collegeswimming.com pro account. And I think the pro account is like $20, and it's really like, it really sets up your recruiting kind of like online dating profile. Like you build a profile, you put in all your times, your grades, what you're looking for in school, and then you can go and like other schools can like you, and it kind of gets the ball rolling in terms of communication. It's really great because swimming is a timed-based sport, so you can quickly compare yourself to other athletes on teams and conferences and things like that. So I think that's the first place to start, is the collegeswimming.com pro account. The second thing that everyone needs to do is create a family matrix. And really what it is just a spreadsheet where you kind of keep track of the things that are important to you and your family and how each school fits into those categories. You know, things like the total cost of attendance, what you are interested in studying, where you fit academically, how far it is from your house, and then like intangibles, like it's by the beach, it's by the mountains, it's outdoors. I swim, you know, there's a guys team and a girls team, or whatever that may be. And really it's just kind of packing the information into one place so that when it comes time to eliminate some lists, you're prepared to do that. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, I think save them until the end, because when I run this slideshow, I can't really control Zoom. It like freaks out on me. So I will get to all the questions at the end. What I'm going to do now is kind of run through year by year of just what the general timeline is. Freshman year, the main thing is academics. It really is get the foundation for academics right. That's why at FAST, our freshman athletes are generally on a lighter practice schedule than our sophomores, juniors, and seniors. That is specifically so that kids can get their academics squared away freshman year, because getting a good foundation freshman year is really, really important. I call it the learn to learn. So like learn to do the things that you need to do to be successful at school, in high school. And really it's like time management, learn to study. And the reality is your course load freshman year won't be that, won't be too difficult, but if you kind of get the processes correct to get your time management right, get your study skills right, it'll be much easier when the course load becomes much harder. In terms of swimming freshman year, I think you're still focusing on skills and development. You don't have to worry about times. This isn't the time to be looking at schools in terms of where you fit speed wise anyway. It's really the time to be like thinking about your own swimming and that. I always say think 2 meets ahead. So you think both in season and developmentally. So, you know, if I'm thinking about age group state, I'm thinking 2 meets ahead that season, which may be like districts and then age group state, or maybe it's age group state and then age group zones. You know, if I'm a senior level swimmer, I may be thinking, you know, high school state and then senior sectionals. So within each season, I'm really thinking two meets ahead. And then beyond that, I'm thinking developmentally 2 meets ahead. So now I'm thinking age group state and then age group zones or sectionals. If I'm a senior level swimmer, I may be thinking sectionals and then junior nationals, or junior nationals and then Olympic trials. So that's just to kind of guide the process, because I think that's really the best way to kind of just keep the scope of your swimming within your own perspective and understand like what's realistic and what makes sense for your recruiting. So 2 meets ahead is probably the best way to do it. And then at this time, I think it's really create your big list, but really it's like just start thinking about schools. And as parents, I think maybe encourage the athletes to look at schools they hadn't considered. Generally, my first meeting when I sit down with an athlete to talk about recruiting is a list of schools that we all know, you know, Stanford, Cal, ASU, U of A, so on and so forth. And really the being able to look at the wide range of schools at this time is what will really kind of help the process, because there are some awesome places to go, but they don't necessarily have a football team playing on Saturday, or they don't necessarily have, you know, a massive marketing budget. So it's like we have to seek out some of these options. And I think working on that freshman year is probably a good time to start. And again, just look across all divisions, because you never know what makes the most sense. Sophomore year, I think refine the family matrix. We want to start to narrow down the list of schools based on refining the family matrix. And now maybe you kind of have a better understanding of academically what you're looking for, distance from home, things like that. I think always keep an in-state option. We have fantastic swimming in Colorado, fantastic collegiate swimming in the state. So it just makes sense to have an in-state option on there, because when it comes time for visits and things like that, the local coaches will always talk to our kids, and they'll always get a good response. They'll be able to go to junior day seminars, and they'll be able to go on visits and things like that. And they'll be able to gain experience so that when they go outside of the state on a visit, or they go check out a school on an unofficial visit or something like that, they have something to compare it to. And the other thing is Colorado is a fantastic place to be. So it's not like, you know, it's a good place to look anyway. So look at the Colorado schools, because we have great options here. And then again, academics. Hopefully, based on those building blocks we set up freshman year, sophomore year, as the course load increases, still goes pretty well. Now's the time to start looking at your standardized testing. It matters more for your more intense academic places, like your Ivy Leagues and things like that, to kind of take some of those tests early and start getting on to that standardized testing process early. But PSAT definitely sophomore year, and then SAT, ACT kind of depending. But really, it's really about staying on track academically and kind of getting set up for those tests and figuring out if you need to get those tests done, when that needs to happen, and those sorts of things. And then at practice, we just want to stay consistent and continue to set high goals. And at this time, I kind of say availability is a skill. Like being able to be an athlete that can kind of weather the grind a little bit. You know, you're able to attend the meets, you're able to kind of stay healthy, and you're doing the things that you need to do to be an athlete out of the pool and kind of protecting that time. So that's what's really important. I also think right now is the time to fill out the student athlete questionnaires. So most college teams use some sort of web-based questionnaire, and that's really your first point of communication with a college. And I tell kids to fill them out everywhere. Like if you want to be a Georgia Bulldog, like you go to whatever, godogs.com, and you fill out their questionnaire, because that will be your initial step, your initial foot in the door. And it doesn't, a lot of times kids are worried about their times, and college coaches don't care. Like they know that the kids are going to continue to improve. They know that if a sophomore is filling out the recruit questionnaire, that there's still 2.5 years of development to happen. So that's in their mind. They love to see kids who want to be Georgia Bulldogs. You know, they love that. And using that as a goal is a fantastic thing. So fill out those questionnaires, fill them out for everywhere. And I usually tell the kids to fill out 1 or 2 per week and just kind of chip away at it. You know, start with your highest priorities, fill out 1 or 2 per week, and don't stop until you've done them all. And then this is the time. So the kids they'll begin to start communicating with coaches around sophomore year, kind of toward actually the end of their sophomore year, but the summer before their junior year. But this is the time where they want to clean up their social media accounts, kind of get rid of all the immature stuff, you know, the Finstagrams and the Sinstagrams and any other like fake spam social media accounts. Just get rid of that stuff, clean up any other social media they have, and just make sure it's like presentable and respectable. Because the interview process, like I said, it's very similar to online dating or an online job interview. And those things will get checked, and kids will get turned down because of social media. So it's just kind of a part of our age, I guess, a part of our society. So that this is the time where they should do that. I pretty much hound them on that at practice too. So they get that. You hear that from me. Junior year, and this generally is the most exhausting, most difficult year. As parents, you'll have to really watch out for your kids in terms of fatigue, and just from practice, fatigue from school, just like the amount of stress really kind of builds up. You know, this is really part of the time of the year where I probably tell, you know, it's good to get blood tests and things like that, because you'll detect cortisol levels and things like that. But stress during the junior year tends to be high. So as parents, like, just be aware of that. And then as athletes, like, be prepared for it. Use the time management skills, the building blocks that we built up freshman year, so that we're sort of in a good spot to kind of make it through, because this is when the grind gets really tough. So it's, like I said, the most rigorous academic year, SAT, ACT for sure, junior year, early in the junior year. And then phone communication can start July 1st prior to their junior year. And then visits can start September 1 of their junior year. I have a spreadsheet that I'll show you guys that has all those dates on it. So we'll kind of go over that stuff again. This is when athletes will start to communicate with coaches more, and this is when they'll start to gain some of the answers to those more intrinsic questions that they maybe had. So you'll start to drop schools off your list based on, I didn't get a good vibe from the coach, or the coach won't call me back, and I'm not really, like, those sorts of things. So they'll refine their matrix again, and this is a great time to kind of hone in on programs of study. And then ask yourself, what if I go to this school and I'm not swimming there? Like, is swimming the only reason I'm going to Arizona State? So it's like, make sure that we have answers to all those questions. I don't think that kids need to have what they want. Like, they don't need to have their major picked out, but it definitely helps to kind of know what we're gearing towards. Like, if it's like, oh, engineering, or I'm into the sciences, that's great. That's a good enough answer. We want to get it to 15 to 25 schools on the list and keep an in-state option. And now I think with the times, we start to look at the times a little bit more seriously, and we want to think about schools, kind of two different types of schools, like schools where you can compete at now, and then schools that are realistic options with 2 meets. So if we're still thinking 2 meets ahead, you have schools that are going to be in that category as well. And that's what I would qualify as your realistic options. I think you look based on conference results, and like I said, continue to kind of look at the development 2 meets ahead and think about like where that would fall. I think it's good to keep some reach options on there. I think it's good to talk to those schools when you have a great state meet or you have a great sectional meet. You email those schools, tell them you dropped time, build a relationship with those coaches, because the reality is those coaches are looking for good people. We have good people. We have great people at FAST, and if a relentless kid can get their foot into the door at a school, I've seen it happen lots of times. This is the time when people will start committing, and you'll start seeing swim posts and things like that. And I think it's important to stay on your own timeline. Some schools in some conferences will pressure more than other schools, and then other schools will actually hold you back and be like, well, we need you to get your testing done, or we need you to, we have to wait for the first round of applications and things like that. So this is where the individual timeline really matters. And then usually around this time, we're having like weekly, if daily, small chats about schools that they're talking to. Sometimes the kids will get sidetracked because a coach won't call them back or something like that. And the reality is like that stuff, it may mean something, it may not mean something. I mean, coaches are busy, and sometimes coaches do all their recruiting on one day, things like that. So just sort of like daily check-ins as we're going through the process to kind of keep the kids on track. Senior year, we want to get it down to a finite list of schools because we're looking to commit senior year. We want to have realistic options. Again, you can stay 2 meets ahead, I think is okay senior year, but we want to be in that window of realistic options there. We try to not let official visits and unofficial visits disturb too much of training and academics. That can get really sort of intense at this time of the year. Now that official visits have opened up in junior year, it's not quite as bad as it used to be, but like you're allowed 5 official visits. So generally I tell kids they probably need 3. It's good. And then maybe a handful of unofficial visits is really the best way to go. Yeah, so just don't take all the official visits in the month of September, that ends up being really exhausting. Stay committed to the process and stay committed to what they've already accomplished and what they've already done at FAST. the senior year is when they really get to put their stamp on the team and leave their legacy. So it's like, want to make sure that their last year with the team is great. And then again, stay true to your own timeline. You know, some people will take longer than their senior year to commit, and that's okay. The last one I'm putting in is a gap year, because it seems to be more and more, this makes sense for more and more athletes, especially on the guy side, but I think it makes sense for some female athletes as well, kind of depending on what the situations are. Generally, the gap year is taken after the senior year of high school, and it's a year where they are living at home, training with FAST, either going to community college or working at a job, something like that. And it really allows them one more year of development, and it allows them to age up 1 year. And I know we have a lot of athletes who are young for their grade, and these are kind of the kids where it makes sense. I think it allows kids you can learn a little bit more about yourself. You can learn about the things that are important to you. It also lets you kind of begin some of the coursework at like a community college level, without starting your eligibility clock, which actually makes kind of like your experience at school a little bit better, because, you know, you don't have quite as much pressure to get all the courses you need in, because you've already done some of those. I know they do a great job of that within the school districts here in Colorado through AP classes and things like that. So I don't know how much you can actually get done before, but you can do a little bit. And then it allows kids to continue the recruiting process while they're going through it. These are our basic NCAA timelines. Yeah. So official visits start, I mean, I guess there's different rules for each division. So kind of depending on what the school you're looking at is, you can kind of look and see. The big thing here is really just kind of knowing that these deadlines are not really deadlines, knowing that these moments are coming, just so that we're sort of prepared. It's good to know that, like, okay, you know, September 1 of my junior year, like I can start to think about visits, and you can start to map some things out like that. Generally, it's not like you're on July 1st when you can get your first phone call from a college coach, you're like on the phone all day. It's generally not like that. So building expectations kind of around these dates are probably more important than the actual dates. So plus they change a lot. Here's some other common rule questions we've got. You can call a coach. You can initiate communication with a coach prior to those dates. They do have some rules as to whether or not they can call you back and things like that. You can't visit, or you can't practice with the team during your visit. In-person contact is not allowed while you're at a competition. So they are allowed to talk at a swim meet to a college coach once all of their events are complete. I generally have the kids do it all on the last day, so that I can sort of control the amount of time, because sometimes the kids can be at the pool till like 9:30 at night talking to like 25 different coaches, and it's just not necessary. So if we do it all at one time, we sort of control it, and that's the best way to go about it. NCAA Eligibility Center. We didn't really talk about that. They need to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. That's actually one of the earlier things they should do. Their school counselor will be able to help with that process, and generally it's just to make sure that they're doing all the classes they need to be in school. Here's some general do's and don'ts of recruiting. We're really trying to find the right fit for each individual athlete. So it's really about those things, and try to avoid being swayed by a certain name or a certain, because you like the colors or the mascot or something like that. Find the right academic place where the kids can grow and still have a great swimming experience. I would be realistic about scholarship expectations. Once we get into that process, or once you get into the process of talking about money with a college coach, I can help with what is sort of realistic and what is unrealistic. One thing I would say is, there's much more academic money available than there is athletic money. So if we kind of keep good grades and we focus on that, that's a good way to get money for college as well. And I think some considerations, like think about if you make the traveling team, like if you join the team and you're on the traveling team, think about your ability to be on a relay, think about your ability to go to conference, your ability to score in a conference meet. Sometimes athletes look at it like, oh, at my tapered time, I'm as fast as their fourth fastest 200 freestyler. Well, that swimmer may be doing those times in season, which makes them a more useful athlete. So it's like we want to make sure that their contribution to the team makes sense, and finding a place where they can contribute early on is really important. Some athletes like to be in a situation where they're sort of like chasing down the top kids on the team, but everyone's a little bit different in that perspective. And I think a place where you can contribute and grow is generally the best fit. Consider all divisions, have an in-state option, and then I think be good about returning phone calls and emails. When the kids are on the phone with coaches, it's good to set time aside, have the phone call in a place where they can be focused and they're not necessarily in front of a computer or TV, and then they'll have a good conversation. Things to not do. Don't have your parents communicate, or your coach for that matter. Most of the time, college coaches want to get to know the athlete. So you're the primary source of the information. They want to try to build a relationship with you and see if you sort of fit in with their culture of their team. So, be open and honest about those things. Have the athlete do that. Don't pay for a recruiting service. We already talked about that. It's just not really necessary in swimming. Don't drink or participate in any other illegal activity on visits. It reflects poorly on our team. It reflects poorly on your parents, so we don't want to be a part of that. I also think that teams that have a lot of drinking on visits generally are not the successful teams, at least in swimming. I don't know how it is in other sports, but I know that in swimming, most of the best situations should be dry visits. Don't take visits to schools you're not interested in, and I think telling a coach no is okay. I think there's a lot of anxiety around telling a coach no, but believe me, like, they're working with a list of a couple hundred athletes. Like, that if you're not interested, the sooner you let them know, the sooner they can move on to the next swimmer. And trust me, there is no hard feelings. And then don't pick a school for superficial reasons. It's kind of goes back to the first quote. It's like, stay true to yourself, stay true to the things that are important, and let those be your guiding lights. So there's some of our kids that have committed recently. It's a hilarious picture of Danny. I always put that one in there. And then what's our last picture? FTT. Yeah. So cool. That's kind of like our primer. This is the first part of what's going to be a 3-part series. I don't know if you guys have been to the recruiting night, but we generally have me talk about kind of this part, and then we'll have some sort of college coach talk about, just what it is from their perspective. And then we usually have some sort of like parent Q&A, or maybe an athlete Q&A where kids and parents can ask questions. So those will be other dates. It's just because of COVID, we had to do it online, and I didn't think I wanted to do a 3-hour Zoom meeting. Reading the safe sport stuff was painful enough for me. That was difficult. Reading in public is hard, and then reading safe sport stuff in public, that's real hard. So yeah, wanted to avoid that. So those are the things. Now, I'd like to kind of spend some time and answer any of your guys' questions. You can put them in the chat. So some of what did the asterisk? The asterisk meant Division One on the list of college athletes. So that's what that was. And then how does this change with COVID in terms of timing and rules? That is a great question, Doug. And the answer is it's different at every school. I've found some schools are kind of proceeding with recruiting almost as normal. They're not sending college coaches out to visit practices and go to swim meets and things like that. But for the most part, things are sort of proceeding as normal. A lot of schools are setting up these like unofficial visits where where a swimmer would go out and kind of go through the normal regular student like campus tour and things like that. And then the coach is setting up like Zoom meetings with the athletes and things like that. So they're kind of doing that to kind of skirt some of the COVID restrictions right now. Right now, there's no official visits. So
no official visits. So you could go, if you thought this is a school I'm really interested in, you could book a flight, you could go visit it, walk around, talk to people. But would you meet with the coach there, or you won't meet with the coach there?
So you won't meet with the coach at the school, but what they're doing is like come out, look at the school, go on the campus tour, and then we have a Zoom meeting, after or whatever.
Okay.
So you don't get to sit in the coach's office, that sort of thing. But that's kind of like how they're doing it. And a lot of times they'll set up like something that's been really helpful for our kids that are going through it now is they'll set up a Zoom meeting with like 3 or 4 of the athletes on the team, and they just sort of chat and they get to know each other. So it kind of like takes some of the place of some of those official visits.
And so they can't also meet officially with other swimmers on the team. Can they just not see them at all if they go, or
I think some of them are probably.
You can meet with other swimmers, so that they've also been doing like a informal, like you meet here and we go to coffee, but it's all unofficial. So it's not the official like roll out the red carpet, watch a practice, do that whole thing, go to a football game. None of that is going on. But they are doing things where they get to meet the coaches and get to meet the swimmers.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. David, is that dead period? Is that the visit dead period, or is that, because I know we're communicating. I guess I get confused with the word dead period because sometimes I think it's like, to me, dead period is nothing, but they're still talking. Kids are still talking to coaches.
I don't think they can meet in person with the coaches, but I'm not in the compliance, so I'm not sure exactly. I know coaches can't leave campuses and they can't have face-to-face visits with prospects.
Right.
On the phone, I'm not sure if I think they're still connecting with kids over the phone. I think that's still
definitely on the phone. Yep.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Oh, Mackenzie says phone and email is allowed during dead period. She would know.
Yep.
So I see a handful of athletes that would be like on this call, probably benefit from their first official like recruiting talk. So I would encourage some of you to have your kids reach out to me, and we'll set up a time where we can all 3 of us, parents, coach, athlete, get in a room, and we can kind of sit down and talk about the first, like what stage they're at right now. I think that's probably prudent for a handful of the people who are on the call, and I think that would be good. And then I don't see a lot of people who are like deep into the process right now, so maybe just Quinlan, who's pretty far into it. But for the most, so she is definitely in the checking in early every day stage, or every week at least.
Yeah,
So.
she's had a few phone conversations, but we need to set up a meeting with you just to go over how to approach it. Yeah.
Yeah. So shoot me an email and
Okay.
we'll get that set up. So.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming. We'll have, like I said, this will be the first of a 3-part webinar series. Sounds very official. So we're going to do that. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And that's all. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.